Hello everyone, welcome to part 5 of my animation tutorial. Now today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create a swing animation, like a Spider-Man swing animation, basically. Uh, so I changed my character's look here a little. He's still rigged the same as we rigged him in the previous episodes. The only thing I changed was the images, but everything else is the same. I didn't do the hands because, I really didn't feel like going into Super City and taking screenshots of all the pictures, of all the hands, I mean. So he still has the regular hands. But yeah, other than that, everything's the same. So what I'm going to be teaching you guys today is how to create, like, how to create a web and make your character swing around, basically. It should be only useful for Spider-Man um or anything else like a chain or something. But yeah, the first thing we are going to do is come up here to the Steve folder, and we actually are going to create a new bone. So come over here, make sure his name's Steve. I'm actually going to change his name to Spider. I'll put Spider Steve. Spider Steve. Alright, so you're going to want to come up to your character, your bone layer, and come over here to the add bone tool right here, and then you're going to want to come to the bottom of your hands, like to both of your hands. You're going to create I'll say a bone right here. Now if you're on Moho 12 or above, you can just click and it creates a little circle. I think if you're on Moho 11 or under, I don't think you can do that. So what you would do if you're on Moho 11 or lower, you would just create a regular bone, kind of like this. Just create a bone like that. But if you're on Moho 12 and above, just click and it should create a bone. So I'm going to delete that, Control Z. And you're going to want to create another one on the other side. It doesn't have to be exactly where I put it. You can put it pretty much anywhere in that area though. And we actually are going to select both of these bones. So come over here to the select bone tool, drag over one, hold shift, and drag over the other one. Then we're going to come over here to reparent bone, and you can see they're both pointing there. We don't want them to point to anything, so you're just going to click off of all the bones so they aren't pointing to anywhere. And then we're going to come over here to bone strength. We're actually going to turn this down, so click and drag to the left, and it turns the bone strength down. We did the same thing for these other bones in the previous tutorials. So now that you have that done, these shouldn't be parented to anything and they shouldn't have any bone strength. So now we are going to actually create a new layer. So we're going to come over here to the new layer tool and create a vector layer. We're going to need to make 2 of them, but create one for right now. And we're going to name this B web. So back web. We're actually going to drag this. Where would we drag this? We'll drag it above the back forearm. Actually, we'll drag it under the back forearm, but make sure it's still in that bone layer. So you might want to drag it above the back forearm first and then drag the back forearm above that, but make sure it's on the bottom of this bone layer. And I guess we can we'll create another one later. But yeah, click on that back web vector layer that we just made, and we're gonna come over here to the add point tool, and we're actually gonna create we're gonna draw like a web, basically. Not really. It's just gonna be a straight line, but it's gonna look like a web. So make sure you have this tool selected, the add point tool. We're going to zoom in, and we're actually going to click right here in between both of these bones, in between the hand bone and the forearm bone. I think that's what it's called. And make sure you're on this back web layer. So yeah, click between these two bones, hold it, and drag it all the way to the middle of this bone that we just created, of this circle that we just created, basically. And actually, you know what I'm gonna do? We'll click and drag it between both of these and let go, and it should create a line. But actually, we are going to come back to the Spider-Man character layer, or Spider Steve in my case, and come up here to the select bone tool. You're gonna select one of these bones. Make sure you don't have the other one selected. So select this one, the back one, and we're gonna name this B web bone. So after you have this bone selected, you're gonna come up here and you're just gonna name it B web bone. And we're gonna come to this one. Make sure you have the front one selected. We're gonna name this F web bone. We're gonna need to do stuff with that later. So yeah, I think you can color these as well if you want to. We actually will. So we'll select both of these. So click one, drag, we'll hold shift, and then drag over the other one, and it should select both of them. Come up here to the color. What color are we gonna make this? Tan? No. I'm gonna select both of these again. Coral. Coral's fine. We'll make it that color. You can make it any color you want, just so you can see it easier if you need to. But yeah, so now we're gonna come back here to the back web layer that we made. And oh yeah, we already made this line. So make sure you have this line that we just made. And we're gonna come over here to the create shape tool over on the left. You're gonna want to make sure that's selected, and you're gonna click on this line that we created, and it should highlight red. And once it's highlighted red, you're gonna come up here to create shape and click create shape, and it should make a white line, or for you it may be black, but I actually changed the fill color. So once you create that line, you can come over here to the select shape tool. Make sure you're still in this layer as well, or it won't work. So you're gonna come over here to the select shape tool. You can click on that line that we just created, and you can change the color of the stroke by coming to this color wheel, or actually you could click on this on the stroke color and you can change it like this, or you can come to the scroll wheel and you're gonna want to right click to change the stroke. Left click changes the fill here. You can see the fill is yellow now. Now it's red. That's not gonna change the stroke color though. So we're gonna come here, we're gonna right click on a white and make sure it's white so it looks like a web. Or you can make it any color you want, but for me it's gonna be white. And now we are gonna come back here to the character bone layer. Actually, come back here to the back web layer that we just made, and we're gonna come up here to the select points tool, and you're gonna click and drag over this point that we just made over this over the back web bone. So when we created this line, I'll show you right now, it creates these 2 points. So we're gonna need to select the one that we made under the back web bone. So I'm gonna delete that one that we just made again. So come over here, drag over this back web bone, and it should select this point. It highlighted red, but it's kind of hard to see. But we have that selected now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to bind points, and we're going to click on this back web bone. Oh no, actually, I think I did that backwards. Actually, we're going to come up here to the bone layer, and we're going to come up here to the select bone tool. We're going to select this back web bone, and then we're going to come up here to, we're going to come over here, we're going to come back. Okay, so make sure you have this back web bone selected. So make sure you're in your bone layer, come over here to select bone, click and drag over this bone. Come back here to the back web layer that we made, the vector layer, and then you're going to want to come over here to bind points, and we're going to click on this point here, right under that bone that we created. Or you can click and drag it, and that should be highlighted, and the bone should be highlighted. And then you're going to want to come up here to bind points and click bind points, and they should be binded. You can click it a couple times. And how did I do the other one? Oh, I think I did the same with the other one as well. So yeah, that should be binded to that. So now we're going to come back up here to the Spider-Man layer again. We're going to make sure this bone is selected again. Come back down here to the web layer, and we're going to actually click off of it so it deselects this point here. And we're actually going to select this point. Make sure this is the only point selected. You know what? I selected the wrong bone. I'm sorry if this is a bit confusing. I kind of explained it wrong. So make sure you don't have anything selected first. So come back up here and click off of everything so you don't have any bones selected. Then actually we are going to come up to here. I'm pretty sure it's the hand layer we want. And we are going to click on that hand bone, that back hand bone, and then we're going to come back down here to the web layer. We're going to select this point by the hand bone, and then we're going to come over here to bind points. Make sure they're both selected, and then we're going to hit bind points. And I think that is correct. So I'm actually going to come back here to the bone layer, and if we move this bone, you can see they're both connected. So if yours is like that, you're good. If it's not, try and follow the steps that I just said again. Hopefully that's easy to understand. And we're going to do the same thing to the other arm actually. So come back here. So on the other arm, I'm going to do the same thing. I think I'll explain it better here. So we actually need to create a new layer. So we're going to come over here to the head, click on new layer, vector layer, and we're going to name this F web. I think it was just web. That's just caps. We're going to name it F web. Yeah, I just named it back web. So front web here, F web. Yeah, the front web layer is going to be right under the front hand? No, under the front forearm. Just like the back web layer was under the back forearm, make sure the front web layer is under the front forearm. So make sure you're on that layer, you have that layer selected. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to come over here to add points. We're going to click in the middle of this bone, the front web bone, and we're going to drag it in between these two bones, in between the front forearm bone and a front hand bone. And then we're going to let go. Then we're going to come over here to create shape. Drag over, we'll click on this line. And we're going to hit create shape up here. And it should look the same on both sides. Now we just have to bind the points. So the first thing we're going to do is come over here to the bone, the character bone layer. We're going to select the front web bone. Make sure you have that selected. We're going to come back here to the front web layer, bind points, and click on that point right there in the middle of that bone layer that we created. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come over here to the Spider-Man bone layer, or Spider-Steve bone layer. We're going to select this hand bone. Make sure that's the only bone selected. Come back here to the front web layer, bind points, and we're going to bind it to this point here. You can see it highlights a little bit. And hit bind points. Did I bind the points of the other one? I'm going to do that again. I don't know if I binded the points of these. So I'm going to come over here, select this bone here. Come back, bind points, select that point, and bind points. And now it should be good on both sides. So if we come over here to the bone layer again, you can see if we move the arms, they move, and if we move these points, it should move as well. So if yours looks something like this, you should be good. And if you click on this tool here, everything should go back to normal. Now that's good right there, I think. So actually, we're going to come over here. Now we're going to come to the front web layer, and we're going to click on new layer. I think that's what it's called. But this tool right here, well, it's not a tool. And we're going to create a new group. I'm actually going to name this. We're going to name this FWeb group. And then we're going to drag that front web into that group. And we're going to do the same thing for the back. So create a group over the back web layer. BWeb group. And drag that back web into that group. And now we're going to come over here to the front web layer. And we're going to create a new vector. So that's going to be inside the group as well. And we're going to name this none. No, we're going to name it off, actually. Off, OFF. Do the same thing for the back web. Create a new vector, name it off. And then we're going to click on the front web folder, right click, convert to switch. Do the same thing with the back web. Click on it, right click, convert to switch. And now you should see the lines we created disappeared, the webs. So, but you can switch to them if you right click on this layer again, and then click on the front web vector layer. So click on the one you want, right click it, and then you can turn it on, you can turn it off, basically. We're gonna keep we're gonna turn them both off actually right now. Ooh, it's the wrong thing. We're gonna turn them both off. And we'll actually minimize these. You can color these layers if you want, so you can come over here to this little box on the right side here where my cursor is. You can click that and you can color it anything you want. I think, what color did we color it over there? I think it's turquoise, the one we, maybe it's not. Let me check. We colored it coral. Doesn't look coral. So you can color these if you want. Coral. I guess that's coral. Make this coral as well. Okay, so now we're done with that. The next part we have to do, well, actually now, all we have to do is animate it. We pretty much already have the webs done. So now we're going to come over here to the timeline. We're going to come to frame 1. I guess we'll start on frame 1. And we'll put our character all the way on the left. So I'm going to come over here to the manipulate bones tool. And I'm just gonna move our character over here. You can see the bones don't move with the character. That's good. If your bones move with the character, that means you parented them to some of the bones on your character. You don't want that. If they don't move, you're alright. So you can just move these out the way if you want. But I'm just gonna put these like in the same spot basically. Now, how do we want to animate this? I think I'm actually going to shrink this character. What I like to do to shrink my characters is go back to frame 0. And I'm actually going to put this entire bone layer in a group. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit group with selection. That basically puts whatever you have selected in a group. So it's going to put that bone layer in this group already. It's the same thing as creating a group and dragging a bone into there, but it's a little bit easier. And we're just going to name this spider. So our character is in this group now. And I'm actually going to scale this down. So come over here to the transform layer when you have this group, spider group selected. And we're just going to scale it down a bit so he's a little bit smaller. And then we're going to come back to the animation. He's all the way over here. And that's fine. That's fine. So now we're going to animate. I think I want him to shoot his web up here and then swing and then let go. Well, maybe I'll do 2 swings actually. Yeah, I'll do 2 swings, so I'm gonna need a little bit more room. Make sure you're on frame 1. Come over here to the manipulate bones tool. I can't say that for some reason. And we're gonna drag all these out the way again. And I'm not gonna do a real in-depth animation. It's just gonna give you guys a basic I'm gonna show you how to do a basic little animation, swinging animation. So, actually, I messed up there. Control Z if you want to undo again. Here, I'm gonna hit Control A and then Control F. That freezes all these bone pieces in place. We're gonna need to do that a couple times here, just so you don't mess up the animation. But yeah, Control A, that just freezes everything in place. And I'll say, the hardest part about this, I think, is getting the timing right when you're animating. Because sometimes you can have things moving too fast or too slow, and you want things to move kind of smoothly, but yeah. I'll put it on 18. I think that's fine. So on 18, I want him to hold his hand up. Make sure you have the manipulate bones tool selected. I want him to hold his hand up like he's going for a swing, and I want him to move up a little bit. And maybe turn his body. So I want him like this. So he kind of moves up a little bit there. And let's say on this frame right here on 18, I want him to start shooting his web. So I'm gonna move this this back web bone that we made. I'm actually gonna move it right here, right where we have them both connected. So right between these two bones, somewhere right there. And I think that's good. So I'm gonna hit Control A to select everything, Control A, and then Control F to freeze everything in place. And now let's say I want it to move kind of fast, so let's say around frame 21. You can see your frame number right here. We'll say 22 actually. Frame 22, I want this web to go all the way up here. So come over here, make sure you have the manipulate bones tool selected. Click on this front, well the back web bone, and we're just gonna drag this all the way up here. And on frame 22, which is the one we are on, I want the web to show. So that's the back web layer. So where would that be? It's kind of hard to see. It's coral, so I think this is it. No, it's the back one. It's this one. So we can click on this back web layer, right click, and we're going to select the back web, and that basically shows it. Actually, I think I want to show it a little bit sooner, so I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. And actually, oh, I'm not in the layer. Yeah. Ooh, sorry. Okay, I'm going to come back here to where we froze everything. So that was on frame 18. We froze everything on frame 18. So on frame 18, I actually want to show the web. So now we're going to come over here, right click, and back web. And then it should go all the way up here and stop on frame 22. And then we should be good. And let's say I want him to, oh sorry, Control Z, messed that up. Yeah, make sure you have this the bone layer selected. Come back here to manipulate bones tool, and I'm gonna move him a little bit right there, maybe up a little bit, just to make it look right. And actually I want his hand to kind of be like that. So from frame 18 to frame 22, he shoots his web. And now we can create him like kind of swinging. So I'm gonna say like frame 33 with frame 30. I want him to look like that. We can even bring him down a little bit. So basically now it's just you're just animating. And if you want, again, you can hit Control A and Control F. The reason I do that is because if we're not moving a bone, like in this case, like let's go to frame 72. This is just a test. You don't have to follow me here. But let's say I want him to lean all the way back here on frame 22, and I want his body to like squeeze up like this. Not squeeze up, but I want him to look like this basically. So we have that going. So that's gonna go all the way from frame 30 to frame 72. But since we didn't hit Control A on frame 30, and if you notice, we didn't really move this this arm here from frame 18 to frame 30. So whenever we move this arm, it's going to start all the way from frame 18. So say we move this arm here, and I wanted this arm to start moving at frame 30, but it's moving from frame 18 all the way to frame 72. You can see that arm starts moving all the way from back here. I think if we can move it a little bit further, it'll be easier to tell. Yeah, so that arm is moving all the way from here. And the reason that is because we never created a keyframe for that arm. So I'm going to hit Control Z a couple times. And on frame 30, I'm going to hit Control A and Control F. And that freezes everything in place. So now if we come over here and we move that arm, it's going to start on frame 30. I don't know a better way to explain that, but hopefully I explained that well enough. But yeah, now we can just continue this. I'm going to move this down a little bit. Frame 42, let's say I want him here. Again, this isn't going to be like a super detailed animation, it's just a quick one. Actually, let's say I want him here. So it looks like he's swinging a little bit, right? And let's say right here on frame 40, I want him to let go. So basically, what we're going to do now on frame 40 is we're going to come back here to this back web layer, and we're going to right click and we're going to turn it off. So now that's off, so it seems like he let go of the web, right? And I'm actually going to create a whole keyframe, so I'm going to hit Control A, Control F to freeze everything in place. And now, let's say from frame 42 to frame 52, I want him to kind of lean in like he's going for the other arm to shoot a web. So I'm just going to move him a little bit here to make it look like he's aiming to shoot the other one. I think that's fine. Not too slow. Maybe it is. So actually, I'm going to spread this out a little bit more. So I'm going to click and drag over everything on this frame 45. And then I'm just going to drag all of these points here to frame 60. Just so it's a little bit slower. So now we're going to do everything on frame 60. Actually, I think that's pretty good. Maybe I want his hand to be out a little bit. I'm not going to change his hand poses. You can if you want. But again, this is just a quick animation. So I'm going to hit Control A, Control F to freeze everything in place. And now, actually on this frame 60, I do want to move this. Since we do want the web to appear on this frame, I'm going to drag this bone over this hand. And I think that's the front web bone. So we're going to come to the front web. Actually, that's the front hand. We're going to come to the front web, right click, and click on front web. So it starts showing. And come back up here to the come back up here to the character bone layer. Make sure you have the manipulate bone tool selected. And let's say around frame 64. Yeah, like 64. We want this web to shoot here, a little bit off the screen. So that web is there. Let's say I want him to move a little bit as well. Actually, I want him to move down a little bit. It doesn't look the smoothest, but it's hopefully you guys get the gist. So from here, I'm going to hit Control A, Control F again to freeze everything in place. And now we're going to animate him swinging again. So I want him swinging here. See if that looks okay. Yeah, that looks fine. And let's say actually here, I want him to let go of the web. Again, I want him to let go of the web. So we're going to come back here to the front web layer. Right click. And we're going to turn that off on this frame. We're going to hit Control A, Control F. And now I want him to land on frame 78. So here, I want him to land and want him to stand up straight. So I'm just going to fix his body so he looks like he's standing up. Zoom in a little bit. And like that. I think that's good. Yeah. So everything should be good here. If we start on frame 1, we hit play. You can see he kind of shoots his web, switches, shoots the other web, and lands. And we can actually make this a little bit slower. So come over here, drag everything on frame 78, drag that over to frame, drag it to frame 70, and we'll actually hit Control A, Control F again on frame 70, just because. So come over here to frame 1 again, hit play. And yeah, I think that looks good. I'm actually going to render this, and we'll see if it looks okay. Well, it should look good because it looked good here, but I'm just going to render it. So, export animation. I showed you guys how to do this in a previous episode. Frame 1 to frame... What frame is this? I'm going to exit out of this, actually. Cancel. Frame 1 to frame 87. Again, you can see your frame number, the frame you're on right here. So yeah, come over here, export animation, frame 1 to frame 87. I'm actually going to do 90, just so it's a couple of frames more. I'll actually do 100. Why not? So frame 1 to frame 100. You don't have to mess with any of this if you don't want to. MP4, yeah, everything's good. You can change the location. Well, you can change the name of it. And hit OK and just export it. And I think I'll cut here and I'll be back when it's finished exporting. Alright guys, so it's just finished rendering and we're going to take a look at it. It should be good. You should see he shoots his web twice and he swings. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this on repeat. Autoplay and turn it off. So it should repeat. Yeah, so he kind of jumps up. Well, he doesn't really jump. He kind of just slides up. Swings one, waits a little bit, swings the other one. Yeah. So again, that was just a basic animation. It's just showing you guys how you would create a swing animation. I've been getting a couple comments about that. And hopefully this was helpful. I know in my other swing animation, I actually made it so, how did I make my other animation? I made it a long time ago, so it looks a little bit different. It was harder to make that one. I think it was way more complicated. Because I didn't really know much about Moho. Well, I did. I've been using this for a while, but I think this is a better way to create a swing animation. It was actually a lot easier. So hopefully you guys found it easy as well. If you do have any questions, I do answer questions down in the comments. So yeah, ask me if you need any help or anything. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Again, it's a basic animation. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button. I think I'm gonna be creating more tutorials. Actually, I think this week I'll try and make more. So yeah, be sure to ask me questions if you have any, so I can have ideas of what to do. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. I know it's kind of crazy nowadays. So yeah, goodbye.